Hi, this is Mark Littleton, the minister of the Word for the Athens Church of Christ, with today's 3-minute sermon. Today is a very difficult day in the life of the Athens Church of Christ family. Not only are we all going through this current crisis that our nation is facing, but we received news this morning that one of our church members, a young man, 23 years old, tragically lost his life in an accident yesterday. How do you begin to process things like that? Death is bad whenever it happens. Tragic death is even worse when it happens. But tragic death in the midst of a pandemic, like we're facing right now, when we're socially distanced and isolated from each other, it's even more difficult. How do you process things like this? We have questions in our minds that we're not going to find easy answers to. Just because you follow Jesus doesn't mean all the answers to all the questions are easy. And yet there is something that we have because we follow Jesus that the world doesn't have. There is a perspective that we can have when tragedies happen like this, the death of someone so young, a pandemic that is sweeping across our nation. There is a perspective that we can have. There is a hope that we can have because of Jesus. So let me share a passage with you today that I hope and pray will give you some encouragement. If your heart is grieving today because you've lost someone you love who was a follower of Jesus, if your heart is grieving today because of this crisis that we're going through that doesn't seem to have an end in sight, and you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, let me share with you a perspective that Christ followers have that hopefully will give you some encouragement. The passage I want to share with you is found in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, beginning in verse 13, where Paul writes these words. Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind who have no hope. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. According to the Lord's word, we tell you that we who are still alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, will certainly not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. Paul does not tell us in this text that as Christians, we're not to grieve. He says you're going to grieve. You're going to grieve when you lose loved ones tragically. You're going to grieve when a pandemic comes that you cannot explain, that you can't see the end of. You will grieve, but Paul says you do not have to grieve as those who have no hope, because in Christ we have hope. That tomb is empty. And because it's empty, my life does not have to be, and yours doesn't have to be. And so today, in the midst of uncertain times, in the midst of tragic death, I would point you toward Jesus, where you can find a hope that the world doesn't have. Lord willing, I'll see you tomorrow for another 3-minute sermon. God bless.